Welcome to the SoCal Real Estate Development and Syndication Podcast. Available on Apple Podcast, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. If you would like to stay in the loop of our next opportunity or looking for capital to fund your deal, please email ppberokoff@hotmail.com. Do not forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Now to welcome your host, Peter Berokoff.
Welcome to the SoCal Real Estate Development and Syndication Podcast, from blueprints to skylines, where we interview the go-getters in the industry. I'm your host, Peter Berokoff. Today's guest is Adam Carswell, a leading expert in capital raising. Thank you for coming on, Adam. How are you?
Hey, Peter. Doing well. Great to be here. Thank you for having me on, and I'm looking forward to speaking with you and your audience today.
Sure. Can you share your background to the listeners, a little about yourself?
Sure. Born and raised Cleveland, Ohio. From there, migrated to Western Pennsylvania. Went to college at Westminster. I'm a Titan. Um, Had a pretty solid career there athletically as well. Got inducted into the Hall of Fame 3 years ago, which is pretty cool moment. After college, moved to Belize, Central America, where I actually continued my studies for a year and a half. Got my master's, my MBA at Galen University. While I was there, I continued to play and coach basketball. Had a really good run, really good time there. And that was cool because that was really the first time that I ever, so many of us Americans get our, actually, so many of us Americans never even get a passport and stay within the U.S. our whole lives. We never really branch out and go see the world. So that was my big moment. And I think from, it was maybe 10, 11, 12 years ago, been to 15, 16 countries now. So it's cool looking back on how that one moment kind of changed a lot of my world perspective. But anyways, moved back to the U.S. after my time in Belize, lived in Washington, D.C. for 4 years, managed stores for Sherwin-Williams there, the paint company. And also that's when I made my transition into real estate. I became a realtor with Remax Distinctive. And then after enough time in residential, I started to realize, wow, there's this whole commercial world that I didn't even, hardly even knew existed. Went down enough rabbit holes where I eventually found Hunter Thompson, founder of raisingcapital.com. For a number of years was, for now and forever, really, I was employee number one. Recently made a move to pursue some more entrepreneurially focused ventures, which I'm sure we'll talk about here today. But cut my teeth with Hunter and his team for years, and we had a great run and a great time. And I learned so much about not only the world of commercial real estate, but the world of raising capital. And Hunter will always be someone that I view as a friend and a mentor, and I just free advertising for raisingcapital.com right now. But if you're listening to this and you are looking to fine tune your capital raising skills, especially raising capital from retail investors, there's no better solution than learning from Hunter. And I can say that because I've just seen so many lives impacted through the work that we did over there. So yeah, right now, my number one focus really is in the world of capital advisory. Plain and simple way to put it, making introductions to institutions for sponsors, operators seeking 8 to 9 figures in funding. Could be debt, could be equity, could be a combination of both. But thankfully built up a pretty substantial Rolodex over the years, and have some really solid teammates that I'm working with now, where that's what we do is we find, really at the end of the day, good people who know how to operate deals, and get them introduced to our institutional resources. So that's a little bit about me, Peter, and happy to go
Sure.
from there.
Yeah, sure. I enjoyed the cash flow connections podcast. I've heard you on there a few times too, and so didn't know too much about you, but thank you for the introduction and the background. So, what kind of inspired you to continue with capital raising? You know,
Yeah, it's I'll never forget being in high school, being surrounded by classmates who knew they wanted to be doctors and attorneys, and they just knew what they wanted to do from high school. I mean, my first 2 years in university, I was an exploratory major. Like, I was one of those people who just, I just never really actually knew what I wanted to do. I know I wanted to be successful and make money and and everything else. But I say that to say I almost feel like the world of capital raising chose me, and couldn't be happier with life playing out that way. Just because, as you know, Peter, that's the famous, there's the golden rule from Aladdin, which is the one who has the gold makes the rules. And so I knew if I could just figure out, as the years have gone by, if I could figure out how to position myself as, if I myself am not the one with the billion-dollar pocket books, to just be to place myself strategically in an ecosystem where people know that I can at least get them in touch with those types of connections is something I've always wanted, because I do feel, by nature, and many humans are, I think by nature, we are more givers than we realize. But I am someone who I've always just wanted to take my circle, my team, my family, my friends, and my connections to the next level, in any way that I can, because it's a very fulfilling feeling to share victories with others. And so to answer your question, I guess what brought me to raising capital, the joy of sharing victory moments with people that I like.
Victories. They make you feel good inside. Definitely understand that. Is there a turning point, maybe with a deal that you've done that really stuck with you, that you maybe
Yeah.
helped somebody or
I have a really um this is my first time being able to speak publicly about it. Just because this is actually my first interview that I've done, in this new world of entrepreneurship that I'm in now. It's been about 2 months where I've been full time for myself, and for anyone aspiring to become an entrepreneur out there, I'm not going to sit here and act like I've been doing this for 2 decades, but I can tell you what, it's been a pretty exciting feeling so far, in a way that I almost feel like I've never felt before. And what led to this moment actually was, I didn't really notice that there was this subsector within the world of raising capital where what you could do is basically do what I'm doing now, which is find good deals, good people, good connections, and then introduce them to these capital sources. I didn't know this was a thing. And I met someone who was doing this, and I started, adding up the numbers, and also looking at, just how this could play out. And I'm like, man, that seems like that would be the next most logical step for me and my family and my life, to be honest. It's
Mhm.
something like that. But I still didn't really know where to begin. And the person who showed me that this world existed in the first place, I guess I would maybe consider them a bit of a mentor. But what I started to realize was, as time went by, I didn't really like the way that they went about doing their business. And that's to put it nicely. There were some things that came up over time, repetitive behavior where I'm like, okay, I don't think it would be in my best interest to actually continue to learn from this person or align with them. But what they did, and I'm grateful, super grateful for, was they showed me that, again, that this world existed. Like, I just didn't even know it existed. And from my perspective, I can't say that this is for sure, but from my perspective, they kind of would lead people on to thinking that they had these high level connections, when in reality, maybe they didn't. But I was like, man, that person showed me this world existed, and that person was pretending to be someone who actually does do this. So I was like, if I can just find someone or find people who aren't pretending and who actually do this, then I think I could figure this out. And long story short, that's what happened. I had a few connections that I made, as I was kind of starting to learn this world of capital introductions existed. And one person in particular, and proud to say, my good friend and partner now, Parag Kundawal, who's actually based out of Dubai. He and I crossed paths, I'll say, December, November 2024 initially, and then about 6 months later is when we both realized we were kind of going on this similar path without realizing it. And so yeah, so that's who I work with now is Parag Kundawal, and shout out to him. By the time he's listening, or anyone's listening to this, he would have just got finished getting married. I always joke with him because, even though he's in Dubai, he's from India originally, and those Indian weddings, man, they're like a marathon. So I know he's in the thick of it right now, but we're looking forward to him coming back, and just talk about high integrity, and just a dream person to work with as well. He's really got a nose for finding the money, and not that I don't, but I thankfully, due to the last 7 years, I've got a Rolodex of a lot of people, looking for, 8 to 9 figures in funding. So we've really worked symbiotically well together, and it's the beginning of a lot of good times ahead. So thank you again, thank you, Peter. You're the first show that I've ever been able to talk about this on, so it's kind of cool, kind of a cool moment.
Well, this is exciting for you because it's like the freedom thing of going out on by yourself and and you don't know what's on the other side of this, and you just kind of took a leap of faith. And so this is really exciting. I'm excited for you. And I think there's millions of people out there will want to do the exact same thing you're doing, but they're just too scared to do it, you know. What's something you can maybe tell them of that leap of faith? Like maybe can you talk to that and how you just jumped from
Yeah,
some
I have a good story and maybe even metaphor for this too. Um, I mean, if I look at just throughout my life too, and my close friends and people who know me well, I think generally speaking, most people would say Adam is a bit more of a risk taker than your average person. So part of me feels like I was kind of like conditioned or preset to be someone who jumps off the 50-foot cliff, hoping that the water below is good.
Mhm. Yeah.
Everyone who's done it before says it's good, but is it really safe
Yeah.
until it's your turn?
hmm
Because, so I feel like I kind of had a little bit of an advantage in that regard, but still, I mean, you making that jump, I think, is always going to be scary. I can tell you and everyone listening right now, when I put my 2 weeks in with Hunter, to tell you that I knew what November 26th, when we're recording this, 2025 was going to look like, is there's no way I could have predicted this, and I say that in the best way possible because things have really panned out the way I was hoping they would. So I think that comes down to a few things. I mean, you can prepare well, and you can prepare as much as you want to, but that moment of like making the jump, I think, will always be scary. And because that moment is always scary, there's a lot of people, to your point, Peter, that never actually do it. And what I found from doing it, and I did do this at one point, about a decade ago when I quit my job with Sherwin-Williams and I went to be a realtor full time. That was kind of like a secure income to I don't know what's going to happen type of moment. It was a little different because I was single in my 20s and all the time in the world, didn't have a family. I got two kids, beautiful wife now. Like, so it's just it's a little different. And what I could say is I think that thankfully, because I did that earlier in my life, and I know what I could have done better then. I mean, one thing that I wasn't doing back then that I did learn, I would say, from being with Hunter for so long, is you do need to have some structure and some schedules, and a system to your approach. That, when I quit my W-2 at 26 or whatever, there was no system. I'm like, oh, I quit my job. I'm a realtor now. Let's do whatever realtors do, even though I don't even know. It was just so much, looking back on it, so much time wasted, but arguably was it really wasted? Probably not. Now I'm like, okay, day one, here's what we're doing. And you kind of follow as much as you can a structure and a game plan. And this is just speaking from my experience right now. I'm sure there could be 1,000 different ways to do this, but that was what kind of gave me, still, even though I was scared, the initial confidence to move forward. Was I had a system to a communication system set up, a strategy on who I was going to talk to, what I was going to say, who I was going to reach out to. And I think you can, as you're getting ready to prepare this move, anyone can do this. And one really powerful thing to keep in mind is like momentum. And so, say you are someone who's like gonna quit your job next week or whatever. That there's like a 2 week window where your whole network also knows like what just happened, and everyone's like, you have this window and opportunity to really capture attention and capture momentum, and that can fizzle out quickly. So I would say for anyone who's like pursuing something new, like those first 2 weeks are critical, I would say, to be communicating with your immediate network and people who know you, because they kind of feel like they're going to be going on this journey with you. And a lot of the business that I'm doing now was generated in those first like 14 days of leaving my previous job. So I don't know. Tactically, I'm sure someone listening right now could even think of a better way to go about doing this, but that's what I would say would be big. And then another cool thing that happened for me in particular is one of the number one, referred to institutional resources that I have in my Rolodex now actually came to me about 10 days after I had already quit. So it was almost like the ship that I jumped off onto, I would say isn't even really the ship that I'm really riding on right now. You know? So talk about like the universe or God providing what you need when you put yourself in a sink or swim scenario. Um, that's really how this played out for me. And man, it's fun to
You
talk
know,
about.
they say the other, you read the LinkedIn quotes, and the other side of success is the other side of being uncomfortable or something,
Mm,
So you've put yourself out of your comfort zone, and just on the other side of uncomfort to success. So kudos to you on that. Can you talk about maybe how maybe on a deal and how to work with somebody's out there searching for some capital? Can you give an example of something you've done for somebody or you want to do for somebody, or can you walk through that?
yeah. So again, this is my first time talking publicly about really what I'm doing right now. To cut straight to it, I would say for anyone listening right now, um, what helps me the most is knowing your timeline and how much you need. And if you're listening right now, just connect with me on LinkedIn or shoot me a DM. Tell me about your deal. Like I'm happy to have that conversation. Um, as far as the process goes, again, my job isn't really to get into the weeds either. My job is to introduce you to folks that I know that can have almost like a deal structuring conversation. Full disclosure too. Like I'm not licensed. Like that's not my job. Maybe one day I'll go and, and get FINRA and SEC license and all that good stuff. But again, my job is to make introductions. So I just want to be clear on that. That being said, send me your deals. I think what I was going to say earlier before I got cut off by by the delivery is as of this recording, I've been doing this for a couple months. So also, I just want anyone anyone listening to take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. But I can say I do have my first deal where the terms have been signed off and agreed on, and closing is scheduled for January 2026. So that's pretty exciting. I could say this. I could say it's a student housing deal in Alabama that everyone's very optimistic about, and looking forward to that being the first of many. And we've got some pretty serious operators in the pipeline as we speak. So to answer your question and to hopefully provide as much clarity as possible, I'll never forget. I learned this in my Sherwin-Williams days. When you're new and you're learning how things work, just let whoever you're talking to know that you're new and you're still learning how things work. And that's where I'm at right now. But I am here to say that I do have several clients and introductions that I have made so far that are very grateful for the connections I've been able to provide them with, and it's just such a good feeling.
Awesome. Sounds like you're taking the right steps and you're moving forward. You got the momentum going. Great job, Adam. Um, so how can the listeners get a hold of you for any questions in the future?
Yeah, best way would be LinkedIn. Connect with me on LinkedIn if we're not connected. If we already are, shoot me a DM. You could say, you know, subject line Berokoff. That way I know where you came from. But yeah, it's an exciting time, and I just got to say, for anyone tuned in right now, I genuinely, I know this can sound corny, but like I am genuinely grateful for your listenership right now, and Peter for you reaching out. Just because, as I mentioned, I've done thousands of podcasts and interviews and all this stuff throughout my short short career here, but this is the first one that I've done talking about what I'm doing now. Q4 going into Q4 2025, going into Q1 2026, and it's super exciting, and I'm grateful to have you all here, on the journey with me.
Sounds good. Thank you all for listening. Please stay in tuned for next time. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you for listening to the SoCal Real Estate Development and Syndication Podcast. To stay in the loop of the next real estate opportunity or looking for capital to fund your deal, please email ppberokoff@hotmail.com. Do not forget to like, subscribe, and comment.